white. I said red. Paint the roses red. Off with his head.
Hi friends, I'm Miss and Jake's missing, but we're bored down under. And today we're going to be previewing Paint the Roses, which is an abstract tile-laying deduction game designed by Ben Goldman and published by Northstar Games. Here, 2 to 4 players take on the role of gardeners in Wonderland, and they work together to fill up the Queen of Hearts garden with shrubs. Each time a shrub is placed into the garden, players then need to collaborate and use their deduction skills to guess another player's hidden whim combination. Meanwhile, the Queen herself is chasing down these gardeners in an attempt to take off their heads so that she doesn't have to pay them for their hard work.
Setup in this game looks fairly simple, with a relatively small number of components to manage. Players place initial shrub tiles into the garden, which are clearly marked. The greenhouse gets filled with 4 random shrubs from the remaining collection. The different whim decks are shuffled and placed near the board. And the Queen, the Gardener, and the Rabbit tokens are placed on their starting position of the point track. Finally, players are going to take the 6 clue cubes of their chosen colour and draw a whim card of the chosen difficulty, with the only restriction being that a single easy whim card can be in play at any given time. Now, the garden layout itself remains the same during standard games, however, the greenhouse is going to be variable, and the whim cards that players draw are going to be different, and that provides pretty much a unique puzzle to play every single time you play the game. That being said, I wouldn't mind seeing a double-sided board that has the standard layout printed on it, because it would reduce setup just that little bit there.
Now before we get into gameplay, we need to understand the whim cards, as they're foundational to the game. Each whim card depicts a combination on it, and the different combinations vary depending on the difficulty of the deck it was drawn from. Easy card combinations are only colour to colour. There are 4 possible colours in the game, represented by roses on the shrub. The medium deck contains the same set of colour to colour options, but also has the possibility of shape to shape combinations, represented by 4 different green hedge suits. Finally, the aptly named hard deck is no joke, and not only contains all of the previous combinations, but also adds shape to colour combinations. As a user-friendly addition, this is all easy to remember because the card backs themselves are all colour-coded and have the possible combinations written below the difficulty. As mentioned, at all times players have a whim card, and the face of their whim card is kept secret. Other than their whim combination, players are freely able to communicate and discuss anything during the game.
During each player's turn, that player is going to take one of the 4 shrub tiles from the greenhouse and place it into an unoccupied space in the garden. Now, every player, not just the player whose turn it is going to inspect that tile and adjacent tiles. If the tile placed and any adjacent tiles creates the combination found on any player's whim card, that player is going to take one of their coloured clue cubes and place it onto the tile just placed. If the combination is found multiple times based on multiple tiles that are there, that player is going to add clue cubes equal to the number of matches that has occurred. For example, let's say I have an easy whim card with a red to red pair. I might take the red spade shrub from the garden and place it next to the 2 existing shrubs that have red on them. Then I would place 2 of my clue cubes onto the tile just placed to indicate that my match is found twice here. As you might have determined already, I'm an awesome painter. But this also opens the floodgates of deduction possibilities. Using the easy example I just spoke about, players can go full Sherlock to solve my whim card. Players know that I have an easy whim card, so that immediately means they can ignore any shapes since my card can only be colour to colour. Since the tile I placed is red and I placed any number of cubes onto that tile, that means players know that 1/2 of my combination has to be red. But since I placed 2 cubes, the only colour that matches twice is red, meaning without a doubt my whim card has to be red to red.
Where is that guy? Anyway, this is a very rudimentary puzzle to solve given the clues provided, and occasionally a puzzle will be this simple. But more often than not, you're going to need to connect more dots to work out what a player's whim combination might be. For example, since every player must put a cube down if the placed tile provides a match for their whim, then any player who does not put a cube down is telling you that their whim card doesn't match any of those combinations. Now, this might only eliminate a few options, but it can come in handy. When it's that player's turn to place a tile, you could use that information to deduce what otherwise might have been a 50-50 guess. Furthermore, as you delve into the medium and hard cards, the possible combinations increase dramatically, making the process really fun. And all for the low cost of your sanity.
To aid with more complex deduction, the game provides notepads that have matrices on them that players can mark off as they gain information. This is super useful and arguably necessary when you start playing with the hard cards. A lot of the information in this game is black and white with no ambiguity. Either there are matches between tiles or there is not, and you know that a player either has or does not have that combination. But as you gain experience with the game, you'll learn that there are ways to garner information based on what tile a player maybe chose, or where on the board they chose to put it, despite there being multiple options. And it's an incredibly rewarding experience using that more loose information to make a guess and have that guess be right. For example, given I have this red medium whim card and this garden layout, by placing this red spade shrub here, I leave my friends with a 50-50 decision between red and spade. However, my friends can go a step further and look where I didn't place the tile. If I was trying to depict spade, I could have placed the tile here instead, and this would have left no doubt. This information is not black and white, and it makes the game a whole lot more interesting than it otherwise might be, because players make mistake, and maybe I missed that 100% spade opportunity. And so this is where the collaborative and cooperative nature of this game really shine through. It promotes table talk, and I love that aspect of this game. So this really is the tip of the iceberg in terms of information that players can infer in this game. And I cannot stress how much I've been enjoying it so far. But I do want to point out that analysis paralysis can kind of come into play here. Because players are on a team and you want to provide the best information for your teammates as possible, placing that tile and figuring out where the best information comes from can take a big portion of time. Speaking of time, I'm late. I'm late for a very important date.
You're late.
Yeah, I know. But I painted you this.
Aww. But you're still late.
Yeah, I am.
So, after a tile has been placed, and the group's had a chance to discuss the implications of cubes placed or not placed onto it, a whim card needs to be guessed. Now, you don't need to guess the whim card of the player who placed the tile, but somebody's whim needs to be guessed. A correct answer will mean the player's marker gets to move forwards on the board based on the number indicated on the guessed whim card. If the players pass the white rabbit by doing this, it scurries forward 10 spots on the board to the next marked position, and it increases the queen's speed by 1. Now, after the players have had a chance to move, the queen gets to move. And as we just mentioned, she gets faster and faster as the game moves on. And if you guess incorrectly, she actually gets a bit feisty and doubles her movement for that turn. Now, assuming after all this that you still have your head, there's a small bit of cleanup to do. You need to get a new random tile to place into the greenhouse, and anyone who doesn't have a whim card, because theirs was correctly guessed, gets to choose a new card, and they choose the difficulty that they'd like. Also, any cubes of theirs that are still on the board get returned to them.
Yep, and then the next player is going to take their turn by placing one of the shrub tiles into the garden, and the game goes round like that. Players are trying to guess each other's whim cards before it gets round to that player, because that way that player gets to draw a new whim card and place a tile that provides the most information about that new whim card that they've just drawn. And that really is the game. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It really is. But the level of depth and deduction that you can go into as you play your turns, it's tremendous. It really is fantastic. Let's find out what we liked and didn't like about it during our thoughts. Now, before we get started, if you've liked the content so far and you like our thoughts, please like and subscribe. It's going to help us out tremendously. Okay, so the game itself, in my opinion, really is a points chaser. So the queen is there and she chases you, and I like the tension that it provides, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But I do feel like you can game the game fairly easily if you're just taking those easy and medium cards. You can fairly consistently fill up the garden and win the game, you know, without too much trouble. So the game has this kind of flexible difficulty that it provides you by letting you draw harder cards, and you really just need to challenge yourself by doing that. Now, with that said, let's jump into the things that we loved. What was your kind of favourite?
Yeah, I guess the thing I love most about this game is just the co-op nature of it. It really is a game that gets everyone involved and gives you opportunities to talk to each other, but also encourages that because other people might have seen things you've missed, or if you're not 100% sure what someone's whim is and you're needing to take a guess on it, it's talking about those, well, they didn't do this or they didn't do that, and what if that means this? And so I really enjoyed that aspect of this game.
Yeah, it's the co-op nature of it, very, very nice. It really promotes table talk, which I think is fantastic. All cooperative games should, most of them do, but this one's pretty good at it. For me, my most, like, the part that I loved most about this game is how I feel when I'm solving the puzzles. Every time someone places a new tile, or picks up a whim but really places a tile, there's a new mini puzzle there to solve, and for me, I find that incredibly rewarding. Now, it's even more rewarding the harder the whim is, because you're having to piece more bits of the puzzle together to actually get the result. And I really, really like that. As I mentioned earlier in the review, I like that you can actually infer more information, based on where they didn't place the tile as opposed to where they did place the tile. You can garner more information. You can garner information from, what tile did they actually take from the greenhouse? What does that tell you? There's a lot of just black and white, yes and no stuff that you can take from where they place the tile and what cubes they place there, but there's additional information that you can use to solve stuff outside of that. And when you get one of those puzzles that you're able to solve from, thinking a bit more into it, that feeling is incredibly rewarding. So I really, really loved that about this. Is there anything else you loved, or are there some things that you liked?
Going on from that a bit, being able to do that and work out someone's whim based on a number of things. It's not just right there straight away. I did really like having the notepads to help with that, because what you're talking about there, I was able to track that on the notepad, and without that notepad, I don't think I could have played anywhere near as well. It's a game that, if you don't have a good memory, that doesn't matter. You can still play and enjoy it because you've got those matrices to be crossing off what combinations they don't have, so that then when it comes around to their turn again, you've got that information from previous turns to look back on. And I really enjoyed that part of it. It's
interesting. The notepads, as you said, I think they are critical to if you're playing with harder cards, because they really, really help you kind of remember stuff. But I actually found that I enjoyed the game most when I was playing without the notepads, and that's because while there's some of that information that's not black and white, you can guess, well, did they go here because they're trying to tell me additional information, and that's stuff that's not 100% I can work that out. They've placed a cube here, so it has to be one of these things. When you're using the notepads, you're very much, kind of crossing T's and dotting I's, and you can kind of solve the puzzle going through that flow. And when you're dealing with, the options that the hard cards have, it can be very important, but that sense of working through previous turns and going, oh, they placed that tile on the previous turn, what does that mean this turn when this tile was placed and they've placed a cube here? I found that was gave me a more rewarding feeling in terms of working it through in my head and solving it rather than using the notepads.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I can understand that and appreciate it, but for me, I definitely preferred playing with the notepad. I just wouldn't have been able to make those connections without it. So I guess just different play styles there.
Yeah, for sure. So some things that I liked as well, genuine replayability, like the setup, you know, is kind of the same, but you've got a different greenhouse that appears, players have different, they've got the different whim cards that they draw up. It feels like genuine replayability. When we played with Ben, the designer, he, you know, was telling us how many times he's played this game, and as we played through, it looked like he was thoroughly enjoying it. And to see that from someone that will have played this game so many times, it's fantastic to see. They've also got the expansion coming out, which adds a whole bunch of, you know, variations on the game.
I think six different variations.
Yeah, so we've not had a chance to play with any of those yet, but I think, you know, given that I already think the game provides a lot of replayability and that sort of stuff, especially with the advanced mode where you remove those inner tiles, I think, yeah, it just provides genuine replayability, and it doesn't need a lot of content to do so. So it's a big plus in my books there. I also really liked the tension of the Queen. So particularly as you're coming into those first games, I think the Queen provides a fantastic job of adding tension and a real objective to the game. So the first few times that we played this, you know, the Queen gives you leniency as you start off, but almost always towards the end of the game she is hot on your heels, and you make one wrong guess and you're done, your head's gone, and that provides a lot of fun tension. It really does for a puzzle game like this, where, you know, it's akin to Hanabi, where you're really just trying to point chase essentially once you're more familiar with the game. Coming into the game and having that real objective to win or lose by, hey, I'm either getting beheaded by the Queen or I'm filling up the garden. I really like that in this game. I think it's fantastic. That being said, as you get more familiar with the game, I think the Queen becomes a little less important, and you're more kind of going, well, we're either beating our previous score or we're not. But I really do enjoy the fact that she's in the game. I think she does her job very well, and that she adds that tension and gives you an objective. Yep.
So was there anything in the game that you find didn't quite sit right with you?
So there's, I think, 3 points that don't really sit all that well with me. The first one is around quarterbacking. Now, I think this game does a fair job of mitigating quarterbacking because players aren't allowed to talk about their own whim cards, so they can't really control the entire game. But that being said, if you're playing in a 3 or 4 player game and you've got one person that is able to deduce and figure out, you know, what another person's whim is a couple of seconds after they've placed a tile, if that player blurts it out, it kind of ruins the puzzle solving fun for everyone. You know, this is the same person that when you're watching a murder mystery movie calls out who did it, you know, halfway through. You know who that person is. You don't watch those movies with them. You don't really play this game with them. Other than that, like, it's not really the game's fault, but it's very much something that you want to know about.
Yeah,
if you've
choose who you're going to play it with.
Yeah, if you've got someone like that in your game group, just kind of avoid it. Another thing is around player count. So I just mentioned, you know, playing with multiple players. If you've got someone in the group, I think the game is enjoyable at all players. We've played it at all players and we've enjoyed it. But I think it's worst at 2. And the reason for that is part of the fun, or part of what I found fun about this game, is as anyone is placing a tile, everyone gets to check and see whether or not their whim matches that and place cubes. So there's kind of this collateral information that you find out as the game goes round to different players. And when you're only playing with 2 people, there isn't the opportunity.
It doesn't happen as often, and it's a good feeling when it does happen, and so the game misses that at 2 players. Yeah,
the game does have a 2-player kind of, it's not really a setup, but you get 3 cubes that you can use to avoid guessing, so that you don't have to guess a wrong thing if you've got no idea. And it works. It is an enjoyable experience, but it just feels like it takes away a lot of the collaboration because you can't talk about your own whim, and so neither of you can talk about your own whim, and so there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of table talk going on, and it just lacks some of the enjoyment that the game really has to offer. So while it is still enjoyable, I think it is far better at 3 and 4. That's personal opinion.
I'd agree with those things.
Yeah. How about you? Did you have anything that you weren't fond of? Or?
Yeah, I guess the main thing was just that it's a game that definitely for me has analysis paralysis. When it was my turn to be placing a tile, I'd be looking at, okay, these are my options in the greenhouse. Which of these options convey what I'm trying to tell you about my whim, and then where can it go? And there's multiple spots on the board it can go, and if it goes here, then maybe we can also figure out someone else's whim, or maybe it cancels out something that theirs could have been. And so going through those options on the board takes time, or at least for me it took quite a while, and I'd feel bad about taking a long time, but I also feel pressure to put down a good clue and be on the team and helping us to achieve objectives and stuff. And so it was just a little bit I don't know, I was torn. Did I want to not take too long and put my clue down faster, or did I want to take all that time to think it out and do it properly? And it just made the game go a bit slow, and I felt bad taking that long, but it was hard.
It's tricky, right? Because you want to provide a good clue for your teammates. It's not like it's your own personal turn and you're selfishly trying to figure out what's the best card to play for my engine to be the best or something like that in a competitive game. You want to provide a good clue to help everyone out, but at the same time you want to keep the game rolling because everyone wants to have their turn and play. So there is a tricky balance there. Now, two of those points that we've kind of spoken about in the not liking, analysis paralysis and quarterbacking, not really a problem with the game at all. I want to really nail that home. The game itself is fantastic. I really like this game. It's we've played it a lot since being able to, and I want to play it more, but there are a couple of things that you need to note if you've got a game
more
group
around the play style. Like if you're someone who plays in that style, then it's maybe not going to suit you.
Exactly. So just things to note. Look, I think that's kind of it. Like, I really strongly recommend checking this out on Tabletop Simulator if you've got the chance. I think it's fantastic, and everyone should really give it a try. If you like co-op games, definitely give it a try. If you like puzzle or deduction games like this, give it a try. If you played Hanabi and you kind of like that, this feels like a much more meatier version of Hanabi. I highly recommend you give this a look, basically. Any other thoughts? Or
No, I think that's about it. I guess thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Jake.
And I'm Miss.
And we're Board Down Under. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.